It didn't growl, it didn't scream. It spoke my name in my best friend's voice.
Did you hear that?
While my best friend was standing 2 feet away from me. Something had been stalking us for days, watching us, learning us, practicing our voices. This isn't a ghost story. This isn't Bigfoot. These are 3 real encounters from the deep Appalachian Mountains with something that shouldn't exist, something that mimics humans, something that's getting dangerously good at it. And if you ever go hiking in those mountains, it might already know your name too. Story 1, The Voice That Knew Us. In October 2019, my friend Drake and I hiked a remote section of the Shining Rock Wilderness in western North Carolina. We were experienced. We knew these mountains, or at least we thought we did. The first 2 days were perfect crisp air, golden leaves, and that deep silence only high elevation brings. But on the 3rd evening, the forest went completely quiet. Not gradually, all at once. Then we heard it. A single branch snapping uphill to our left. Heavy, deliberate. We shouted, thinking it was a bear. The forest eventually came back to life, and we tried to laugh it off. That night, we slept closer together than usual. The next afternoon, we found the tracks. Bipedal, 5 toes. Nearly 5 feet between each step. Pressed deep into the mud like whatever made them weighed far more than any man. That night, the whistles started. One from the north, one from the south. Long, low, and perfectly timed, like 2 people communicating. We barely slept. The following evening, we finally saw it. 40 feet off the trail, standing between 2 ancient oaks. Extremely tall, shoulders too narrow, arms hanging too low. The posture was wrong in a way that made my stomach turn. It wasn't hiding. It stood perfectly still, watching us openly for nearly a full minute. Then I blinked, and it vanished without a sound. That final night, around 2:30 a.m., I heard slow footsteps circling our camp. Then came the breathing, slow, deep, and unnaturally cold. Then it laughed. A grotesque, broken imitation of laughter that didn't understand joy. I screamed for Drake. As we packed in total panic, I heard Drake's voice from the woods on my left. "Hey, come look at this." But Drake was standing on my right. The real Drake stepped back onto the trail, face pale, and asked, "Who are you talking to?" We ran the rest of the night. Just before we reached the truck, I looked back. Something tall was standing motionless at the tree line, watching us leave. It never chased us. It didn't need to. It already knew our names. For months, I tried to convince myself it was just an animal, a sick bear, a trick of the mind. And the worst part? That wasn't even the most terrifying encounter, because what happened in eastern Tennessee made me realize these things don't just watch people from the woods. Sometimes they come closer, much closer. And the final story is the one that still keeps me awake at night.
I used to do seasonal trail maintenance deep in the Smoky Mountains of eastern Tennessee. Most people never see those parts of the mountains. Once you get 8 or 9 miles past the trailheads, the woods start feeling older, quieter, like you've stepped into a place that doesn't entirely belong to people anymore. That week, it was just me and one other crew member camping near a remote ridgeline, far from the nearest road. The first few days were normal, hard work, clearing brush, repairing storm damage, nothing unusual. Then on the 4th night, something changed. We were sitting beside the fire around 10 o'clock when my coworker suddenly stopped talking, mid-sentence. He was staring into the woods behind me, not moving. I turned around. About 20 yards into the trees stood what looked like a deer. At first, then my eyes adjusted, and the longer I stared at it, the less it looked like any deer I had ever seen. Its legs were too long. Its neck sat too high above the body, Its torso looked stretched unnaturally thin, like its proportions didn't quite fit together correctly. And it wasn't grazing, it wasn't startled, it was standing perfectly still, facing us directly. My coworker whispered, "That's not a deer." The fire cracked loudly beside us, and for a second its eyes reflected in the flames. Pale, gray-white, almost human. Then it moved. The front legs stepped first. The back legs followed a half-second later in a strange, delayed motion, like something pretending to understand how a deer walks. A cold feeling went through me immediately. Because animals don't move like that. It took another slow step forward, then another, completely silent. No crunching leaves, no snapping twigs, nothing. Then its head tilted sideways, too far sideways, at an angle no animal's neck should allow. My coworker stood up fast and shouted at it. Most deer would have bolted instantly. This thing didn't even flinch. For one horrible second, its front legs lifted slightly off the ground, like it was starting to stand upright. Then it stopped itself, and I swear to God, it looked embarrassed for getting caught. That was the moment fear really hit me. Not panic, not adrenaline. The kind of fear where every instinct in your body starts screaming that something is deeply wrong. The creature slowly backed into the trees without breaking eye contact once, and even after its body disappeared into the darkness, those pale eyes remained visible between the trees for several more seconds, watching us. The forest stayed completely silent the rest of the night. No insects, no wind, nothing. Neither of us slept. Sometime before sunrise, I heard footsteps circling the tent. Slow, measured, stopping every few seconds like whatever it was listening for movement inside. At one point, the footsteps stopped directly beside my side of the tent. So close I could hear breathing through its nose. Slow, wet, curious. I remember holding my flashlight so tightly my hand started cramping, but I never turned it on. Because deep down, I already knew I didn't want to see what was standing out there. The footsteps eventually moved away, just before dawn. The next morning, my coworker looked exhausted. Before we packed up, he said something I still think about all the time. "You know what scared me most?" I asked what, and he said, "It knew we were afraid before we even moved." I quit that job less than a year later. But sometimes I still think about those eyes. Not because they looked aggressive, not because they looked animal, but because they looked intelligent. Like whatever was standing out there in those woods was trying to understand us. And I still don't know whether it succeeded. 2 different mountains, 2 different encounters. Both involved something that understood fear. But the last story I heard was different. This one happened on a lonely mountain road, with nowhere to run.
4 years ago, I was driving through a remote stretch of highway between Virginia and West Virginia, close to midnight. No towns, no gas stations, no other cars, just dark forest and winding mountain road. I remember feeling exhausted but calm. The kind of quiet you only get deep in the Appalachians after midnight. Then I came around a sharp bend and saw something standing directly in my lane. At first, I honestly thought it was a person, then my headlights fully hit it. And my brain stopped making sense of what I was looking at. It was easily over 7 feet tall. Its arms hung unnaturally low, almost to its knees. Its shoulders were too narrow. Its body looked thin in the wrong way. Not skinny, just stretched. I slammed on the brakes so hard the tires skidded against the pavement. The thing didn't react. It just stood there in the middle of the road. Then slowly, very slowly, it turned its head toward me. The face was the worst part. It almost looked human. Almost. But the features felt unfinished. Blurred. Wrong. Like someone had tried to recreate a human face from memory and gotten small details horribly incorrect. For several long seconds, it stared directly at me through the windshield. I couldn't move. I couldn't even blink. Then it stepped off the road. Not running, not panicked, just long, silent strides into the trees beside the highway. And even after it disappeared into the darkness, I still heard movement. Pacing. Back and forth just inside the tree line. Like it was still there. Watching me. I sat frozen behind the wheel with my heart hammering so hard it actually hurt. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to drive. So I did. I took off way faster than I should have on those mountain roads. The trees blurred past in the darkness while my hands shook violently on the steering wheel. And the entire time I kept checking the mirrors without meaning to. Like some part of my brain knew it wasn't over yet. About a mile down the road, I finally started trying to rationalize it. Maybe it had been a person. Maybe exhaustion and headlights distorted what I saw. Maybe fear filled in the gaps. Then I looked in the rear view mirror, and for half a second, I saw something moving between the trees alongside the road, keeping pace with the car, not running, gliding. Those same long, unnatural strides, weaving silently through the forest. I snapped my eyes back to the road instantly, my chest so tight I could barely breathe. When I forced myself to look again, there was nothing there. No movement, no reflection. Nothing except dark trees disappearing into the mountains behind me. But I never shook the feeling that it had followed me much farther than it should have been able to. Like it wanted me to know something. That leaving the mountain didn't mean I'd escaped it. To this day, I still don't know what I saw on that road. I only know that every survival instinct in my body recognized it immediately as something that should not exist. And sometimes late at night, when I'm driving alone on empty roads, I still avoid looking too long in the rearview mirror, because part of me is still afraid that one night I'll see it keeping pace with me again, when the mountains suddenly go quiet, when something calls your name in a familiar voice, when the thing in the trees doesn't run away, leave, and never go back. And if you've ever experienced something in the woods you still can't explain, tell us below, because people in Appalachia have been warning about these things for generations. And if you hear your name in the mountains at night, don't answer.